Hi friends, welcome back. It's good to see you again. I'm Allie, if you don't know me, and I make videos about film and lifestyle and just everything nerdy. So I used to work at Disneyland, and if you want to hear that story, go check out my other video. But I really enjoyed working there, and I have so many great memories, and most of them involve other cast members. There's definitely a sense of community there that is so welcoming and really brings people out of their shells, which is what happened to me. It's incredibly social, and you spend a lot of your time in break rooms, killing time in between sets, waiting for the next group of guests to come. So there's a lot of time to talk, especially about spooky things. And I found that most people who work at Disneyland have a ghost story. So let's get cozy, get a cup of tea, and let's talk about some Disneyland ghost stories. So these are going to be a mix of my own personal things that I've experienced, stories that people have told me, and then just some general history that I've read on the internet. So let's kick it off with one of the spookiest places in Disneyland, Main Street. I've been here when all the lights are off and the park's closing down, and it is pretty eerie. I remember talking to someone and they told me that they were working at the Candy Emporium, just stocking shelves, sort of cleaning up for the night, and things literally were flying off of the shelf. Like, there was no possible explanation for things to be flying off. Like, I get it if something maybe is lined up weirdly and just sort of tumbles off, but this person said that things were like going across the room, and she was just like, all right, I think it's time to maybe lock up for tonight. Another really crazy spot is Walt's apartment, which is located on top of the fire station. And the apartment has a big window that you can always see this little lamp turned on. So back when Walt was alive, everyone knew that he was in the park because that lamp would be on. And then when he left, he would turn it off. So after he died, the light was turned off. But one day, somehow, it was turned back on again. And everyone believed that this was Walt just sort of saying that he had never left, that his spirit was still somehow out and about. So sort of out of respect for him, they just always leave that light on, which I think is really sweet. It's a nice way to honor that his presence is always there. I've also heard that if you go into one of those little tunnels, like the Main Street tunnels with those vintage posters on them, that some people smell cigarette smoke. And Walt was like a notorious smoker. And you're definitely not allowed to smoke in the park. So it's a little odd. Now, this story, I know this to be true because I witnessed this firsthand. I have seen this with my own eyes. So one day I was working in Fantasyland by the Wishing Well, and I sort of saw some maintenance members walking around, checking things out. Didn't really make much note of it, but then a little bit later when I went to go out for another set by the Wishing Well, someone told me, oh, that area is closed down. You can't go there, we're gonna have you go somewhere else. And I was like, oh, like why? And they said it's because of a biohazard. A biohazard? And one of my managers said, oh yeah, a human remains biohazard. What? Oh yeah, I can't go do my job there because there's actually human remains. So what happened was that someone dumped their loved one's ashes into the Wishing Well at Disneyland. And someone noticed this, and the maintenance crew had to come clean them up. I had a friend who worked at the Haunted Mansion, and she said that this was a notorious spot for people dumping ashes. And that is a pretty spooky idea. I think people forget that Disneyland is like hyper surveilled. There's security cameras everywhere. And on all those dark rides, there's like night vision cameras. They have microphones, like people are watching, and people are constantly cleaning too. So I do understand why people would want to celebrate their loved one by spreading their remains at somewhere that they love, something that meant a lot to them. But Disneyland is not the place to do that. Please don't do that, because now those workers are going to have to go vacuum that up. And that's pretty spooky. If you do believe in ghosts, I feel like the Haunted Mansion, just because of that fact alone, would just be a hotspot for some crazy activity. Now, one of the most haunted places in Disneyland that I've heard stories from is the Matterhorn. So there was a really tragic incident that happened there in 1984. A woman named Dolly Young somehow fell out of her restraints and out of the bobsled on the Matterhorn and got hit by an incoming car, and she sadly passed away. So there's actually a section of the ride that they call Dolly's Dip, because it's where there's like a really bumpy spot where she fell out of the car. And I've had several cast members tell me that they've been working that ride at night or just in that sort of general area, and they know that they're the only one there, or they know everyone else who's working there, and all of a sudden they'll just smell a really strong whiff of a woman's perfume. and they'll hear a voice and someone walking when there's no one there. And the amount of people that I've had tell me this personally, I don't know. Somewhere at Disneyland that I would not want to be at night is Tom Sawyer's Island. First of all, some of those animatronics that are back there, like the Native Americans and the cowboys and the animals, I don't know about that. They're a little bit unsettling to me. I don't know. Do you guys have like that mechanophobia or like sub-mechanophobia? I know Trixie Mattel is always talking about it. Trixie is like really scared of the animatronic gorillas that are in like Rainforest Cafe. I don't really like that either, I guess. But Trixie did mention the Jaws ride at Universal, and just the thought of having that like shark mechanic underwater. I don't like that either. Like if somehow I ended up in the water and that shark animatronic was also in the water with me, I think I would feel pretty ill. Granted, I would not want to be in the water with an actual shark either. But something about just like machines underwater, I don't like that. I really don't like the idea of like a giant ship being underwater too. Like the idea of the Titanic just being down there, that like icks me out. And just like the thought of being next to a cruise ship on like a smaller boat, like I don't like that. But anyway, being stuck on Tom Sawyer's Island at night would be very spooky. And then the idea of having to like swim across that moat to get back is also spooky. Like what is in that water? It's pretty murky. Are there like mechanics under there? Is there like a track? And of course, there's the horrible story of the two brothers who stayed past closing time in 1973 on Tom Sawyer's Island and decided to swim back across the moat. And sadly, one of them passed away. Things must have been pretty lax back then, because I genuinely don't think you could stay at Disneyland overnight now. Like even if you really, really tried, even if you were a cast member, like people would find you and just be like, hey, what are you doing? Another place that I would always hear that's like a hotbed of paranormal activity is Mickey's house. I actually don't think I've ever been there, but from what everyone would tell me, it's like haunted. Like people would just have crazy stories of being there at night, or like just when there's no one there, maybe in the basement, and doors would slam, like trash cans would move. They would just hear really strange things. And I think a lot of this comes from just like how creepy it is to be at this place that's so like bustling and bright and music, and it's loud during the day, just like full of life and people, to then at nighttime when there's no music and it's very quiet and very dark and the animatronics are frozen. So I got to do a few like media things where you would have to be there before the park opens. So my call time would be like 3:30 or 4 a.m. and then we'd go into the park at like 6 a.m. And just walking from my car to the location was so spooky. I kind of loved it though. Like, did you guys ever read those Kingdom Keepers books? I remember reading those when I was a kid. They should make those into a movie. I don't think Disney would ever let them, but something like that would be so fun. Anyway, that was just a quick little spooky ghost time. If you guys have any ghost stories of being at Disneyland, or if you've heard any rumors of anything happening, let me know down below. And as always, it's been great to chat, and I will see you very soon. Bye, guys.